Today I had 3 different matches that I was gonna cast, and I'm glad that I checked the Discord before I did, because I stumbled across this beauty that certainly caught my eye. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brightworks and another match Beyond All Reason. Today, we're watching a nearly 50-minute long 1v1, but it's not noobs. We're not gonna be fighting, gauntlets and agitators the entire way through. These are some of the best 1v1 players gonna be clashing heads today. And I gotta know, how on earth does a game go to 40 minutes? Usually 1v1 games end around the 20-minute mark. Usually as soon as you hit that T2 transition, these guys have either built up a big enough army to... Whoa, an air lab. Okay, well... Oh boy, I have a lot to explain, so I'll get to it quickly. Anyways, this should be a heated match between some of the best of the best. This was a game that was played in last Fight Night, and I felt like it was a good opportunity to advertise the Fight Night that's going to be played on August 10th, this Saturday. As of recording this, I'm going to be playing and then casting some of the games. I'm sort of one of the hosts that's going to be participating in the tournament and enjoying it alongside with you guys, and it should be a fun one too, because we're going to be playing with the Legion and the Hornet balance pack. So if you haven't gotten a chance to look at either of those, it's a great opportunity to check out what some of those look like. I'll have a link down below in the description section to the website called Challenge, where all of it is hosted. Anyways, today spawning is the blue team leader going for a bomber off rip on Onyx Cauldron. It's going to be none other than Arboreal Squid Uwu, our blue team leader, our blue team player, I should say. Spawning as a Cortex commander and going on a double mech start here, which is pretty interesting. I mean, for vehicles, I guess it makes sense. Already complaining about the wind is pretty funny. Both commanders relying heavily on it, and both commanders disappointed heavily. The red commander here, who goes by the name of Lord Vador, both going to be playing as Cortex already, with a couple of bots on the lab right here for Vader. So a much more conventional start for the Cortex commander, a very unconventional start right here for the blue commander. I guess banking on the fact that it is a pretty long rush distance. The distance from commander to commander is actually quite high on this map. Usually we see people either branching towards the southern side and contesting that, or branching towards this northern side and contesting that. Usually in the middle, it turns into a no man's land. There's a big choke point here, and there's a big choke point here. Usually most of these get blocked off by static defenses or a big swarm of units, and then we see a lot of fighting where most of the resources are over here on the southwestern side and the northeastern side. 40 minutes long. Yeah, get a drink, grab your popcorn. Maybe now's a good time to pause right before this bomber heads out on the map right here. We do have a scouting plane sent behind the bomber, and we are already reclaiming this lab, which is pretty interesting. We're gonna go for a transport shenanigan. Okay, interesting. So transport's going to be nerfed in the upcoming tournament here, the upcoming fight night. We will be playing with the slow commanders and transports enabled. There's kind of 2 options for it right now. Let's see how this bomber does. There's sort of 2 options for this, for transports right now. You can either dismantle them. That's a nice connection. You can dismantle them picking up commanders, or you can make the transport way slower with a commander in it. Still out on the field as to whether which one I prefer, but I definitely think it's a good idea to make some sort of a change. The transport into the enemy's base meta has been unhappy. It's certainly made folks unhappy with the way that the game is shaped up. Shuriken out now to try and deal with all this. That's an interesting response. A effective one, though, I will say. Able to paralyze these grunts, and you know what? We could even see a capture command if we were so inclined. We'll be going straight into a bot lab, though. What a strange move right here from Arboreal Squid Uwu. Was it worth it? I mean, the bomber shut down a bunch of wind turbines. There's still solar panels up and running, though. There's a lot of blueprints right here that are kind of in a desperate state, half built and decaying. Already a massive advantage as far as units on the field go for the red commander, who's obviously got tons and tons of grunts out on the field and is starting to secure things. I think you take the air the air start from your opponent, and you just go nuts with the expansions. You just start sending constructors wild. I think you get a few moving north, a few moving south. Maybe you just start moving a couple of them to build big wind turbine farms as well. This will be, I think, the first fight night that's been played with the blueprints, by the way. I can't say for certain, but I think that might be true. Should be interesting to see if any of the pros bring out any crazy blueprints. I'm still waiting to see a replay of someone who essentially queues an entire T1 economy off of just a blueprint and plays their entire game just queuing units and microing rather than scaling it all. Wind speed quite high on this map, goes from 1 to 29. That's what the players were discussing right now. Right now it's pretty high, and it means that those wind turbines are going to be super powerful. Both commanders overflowing energy or getting close to it at this point, ready to start pumping out constructors. Yeah, you can see we start building constructors, very energy-dense units as soon as the wind speed goes high. Wouldn't mind a couple res bots out in the field here either. There is loads of trees that are available for reclaim. If we just take a general swath of this, 61,000 energy more or less. You know, it's plus or minus based on where the trees are located, but as a general example, tons and tons of energy in each of these bases, and I wouldn't mind seeing either of these commanders greedily going for the geothermals either. Now this transport is going to be nice. Now that the transport is out, now that we're into bot production, now that we have E-converters up and online, the transport is really nice. It's going to mean this commander can fly all over the place, moving into positions that otherwise would take just too long in order to get to. Are we going to contest the northern side, or are we going to contest the southern side? Vader has his eyes set on the southern side here. It's where the majority of the resources are. Actually, how many nodes is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So slightly more metal on this high ground here. Oh, there's an interesting little blueprint for you. It's an exploiter surrounded by walls right there. Very cute. Are we going to be able to get it? I'm not so sure. Loads of grunts moving forward right here. Vader looking to get aggressive on the other side of the map, or at the very least posture on the enemy side of the map, making sure that the blue commander here is aware of the fact that there is a massive red army and those shurikens are no longer going to be effective, as we do have a couple of AA bots included in the composition here as well. That's kind of the pain with going for an early air lab like that. Yeah, the bombing run was great and it shut off a couple of those wind turbines, but wind speed had already plummeted and everyone was pivoting into solar panels. And now it means that anti-air is going to be all over the place. The red commander is going to be well cognizant of the fact that air is a potentiality. Now that the grunts are out on the field, it's probably pretty obvious that we're pivoting slightly towards bots here. LLTs, wind turbines, all sorts of stuff coming up right now for the blue commander. I like this transport shenanigan. I like this. I think it probably buys enough of a benefit that it's worth it. We do have the slow transports on. See how grindingly slow that transport is moving with the commander in its pocket. Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting change once that becomes full meta. Transport changes, certain to shake things up. One of the core fundamentals of the game are the way the transports work, and so you change anything like that about a game like this with this much depth, you're certainly going to ruffle some feathers and disrupt some gameplay styles, I want to say. Onyx Cauldron is a map of much metal. It definitely has plentiful resources to claim. Does Vader actually see this? Oh, you know what? Vader has no idea. Oh, the radar tower is too far back. It actually only sees the buildings over here. He assumes the commander must be over in this corner here. Doesn't realize that Arboreal Squid, the blue commander, has actually moved to the southern side. Oh, interesting. Man, those transports are cheeky. Also, of course, you can transport around on these mountains over here, and there's not really any way you're going to be able to shut that down without, for instance, using some sort of fighter. That would be a cheeky play. A risky gambit, but a cheeky play to fly your commander into the enemy base and degun their lab. With slow transports on, it's doubly so because, well, obviously, slower transports means it takes them longer to deploy, especially dropping commanders. So you, for instance, might be able to pump out a couple of anti-air bots, enough anti-air bots that you could shut down a transport. I believe it only takes 2 or 3 hits. Commander here cries out Lord Vader. It's a good call out, but I'm curious who he's giving it to. Calling it out for the spectators, I suppose, who are watching this game or were watching this game. This is a replay after all. We'll be doing it live Saturday, August 10th. I can't remember the exact time for the tournament, but I know it starts early in the morning PDT. Be aware of that. It should have all the details in the challenge link. Again, that'll be down below in the description. So we're sticking to bots for now. Oh, no, we aren't. Pardon me. There's a vehicle transition, a mass vehicle transition. Actually from, yeah, the blue commander pivoting hard into vehicles right here. Spamming out grunts still for the red commander. Those are going to have a rough time against these pounder tanks. Oh, we do have a vehicle lab on the front line. Okay. Both commanders with a mirror matchup then. Yeah, both well aware of what they're going for here. Trying to blast down that pounder tank. Oh, they just barely don't get it. Pounder gets swarmed right here in blue. The battle is fierce. But the blue pawns do come out on top. Barely, but on top nonetheless. Incisors now jumping on top of this riot tank right here in red. Man, both of those entire grunt armies just evaporated into thin air. The power of the riot tank. The pounder, the anti-swarm tank, is perfect for dealing with big swarms of bots. That was an excellent transition right there. Really from both of these commanders, who essentially made the same exact play and canceled each other out, except for the resbot here eating up a bunch of this wreckage is really nice. We do have the commander doing essentially the same thing right now for the red player. Blasting back a bunch of these vehicles right here The medium tank lending so much sturdiness to this composition, distracting those incisors so the grunts have an opportunity to fire, and they will be forced to flee. Shuriken pulled to the front line here. Anti-air bots have been pulled to the front as well. It looks like we're down to just one now. One anti-air bot, not tremendously difficult to overcome. Commander moving in to degun the LLT over here. Oh, can we go for the lab? Oh, that would be a cheeky play going for the lab. Looks like we tried to sneak some units around as well. We do have a grunt in the backline over here somewhere. Yeah, metal extractors, exposed metal extractor is going to be detected right now. Continuing to expand up north as well, which is always cool. The blue commander trying to continue pushing that direction. The red commander losing sight of it and instead going for a bunch of wind turbines. Not a bad idea, but I'd love to see a dedicated constructor or two in the backline just building wind turbines. Bear in mind, of course, I am no 1v1 pro. I've definitely played my fair share, but certainly not my most prominent field of expertise. I'm just giving you my thoughts on how I would approach this if I was in this situation. Obviously easier to say things like that as well, given spectator view. These players operating under limited perspective. They have to make the best of the information that they have. LLT's going to deflect this attack on the northern side quite nicely. That is a swarm of 8 grunts moving into whatever position they can. Medium tank ball slowly but surely building. It is a long-term goal to build up the medium tank ball to the point where you can push in. But because we know the commander was lurking somewhere else, but he's not. So Vader right now knows the commander is lurking on the left-hand side. He's seen the commander over here. He's seen all these buildings over here. He knows that the commander must be building over on this side. It means that he wants to get aggressive over on the right-hand side, where the risk of getting the tanks degunned is severely limited. However, Arboreal Squid has the transport and is now moving it forward, and has now retreated the commander back to the base. What a brilliant intuition right there from the blue commander, reading that the enemy wants to get aggressive right here in the middle of the map, using those medium tanks to try and do it, and pulling back the commander just in the nick of time. And of course the pounder tank going to make very, very short work of a lot of these units here as well. Grunts running around trying to find any purchase that they can. Shuriken in the air, paralyzing as many of those grunts as they can as well. They are disposable at this, or they're indisposable at this point, as they are no longer buildable. We don't have the air lab anymore. LLT's coming up in base. Blasting down those grunts nicely, but I think a few of them are still going to manage to get through, and this is a nice bit of damage. Yeah, we have metal extractors and wind turbines falling left, right, and center here. We are going to reclaim them mostly. One of them still up and standing. Nicely done. Manages to take down the metal extractor. That's a lot of damage in the backline here, and of course we're reclaiming all the wreckage on the front as well. Vader in a lot of trouble here if these tanks get a good surround, but it is difficult to micro those tanks, especially since they're backed up against this hill. If Vader pushes in right here, those tanks are going to be very slow retreating back into the base of the blue commander, and essentially it's going to have to come down to a commander versus commander standoff. Build turret right here assisting with the LLTs. Wouldn't even mind seeing maybe a heavy laser tower or a couple of twin guards, something like that, just to threaten this commander back a little bit. Those LLTs are very dangerous to the commander. You can see 49% right there from the combined fire of the medium tanks and the plasma, or the light laser cannons, not the plasma cannons. We aren't quite to T2 yet, but we are, my goodness, putting a lot of force into thugs right here. I suppose trying to spend whatever metal is reclaimed on the front line right now, it's Lord Vader putting it all into thugs on the front line. We've got tons and tons of brutes coming up here. We're 13 minutes into this game, and it feels like there's enough metal out on the field for the red commander to win it, but there just isn't a way to push through this tank ball without really damaging yourself. There's so much efficiency to the health pool of those vehicles that you really can't dive on it without suffering tremendous side effect. Resbots here doing the Lord's work as well, resuscitating these tanks, putting them back on the front line and repairing them as well, getting the maximum value right here. So despite the phenomenal trade from Lord Vader and the nice economic advantage, we are up about, I want to say, well, depends on the reclaim a little bit, but while the advantage is slight, it has been persistent for a good amount of time here. Going to reclaim the lab over here. We're going to go for a forward bot lab or maybe something cheeky. An air transition wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. We do have this little exploiter built blueprint with the walls around it. It's so cute. I really love it. Yeah, we're moving forward with the constructor here on the northern side, but I think it's a little too late. Those grunts are going to find it. I think we need to address this big ball of thugs on the front line here. Nothing a couple of riot tanks wouldn't do phenomenally against, though. Basically, riot tanks are the hard counter to bots of essentially all kinds. Rocket bots, really one of the few things that can hard counter riot tanks. And it demands such a massive amount of micro that it really isn't efficient in 1v1s. The pro is capable of microing that sort of thing, but I wouldn't recommend you try it in your own game. Couple of grunts sneaking past over here, looking for exposed metal extractors. We have no LLT in base, but obviously you have the defender's advantage. You can just pump out more units and you'll be a-okay. The ball pulls back though. Yeah, Vader finding this position unmaintainable. Not worth maintaining anyways. Build power to eat the grunts. Pull them apart at a molecular level. Always fun. Come too close and they will dismantle you bolt by bolt, sheet by sheet, until you are nothing but metal in the pool available for the red commander here. Still though, metal extractors, wind turbines, all of it going down here for those very, very cheap Cortex grunts. Not going to be a bad situation right here for Vader at all. I think we need more economic expansion. Yeah. This hurts, losing this southern side right here. That was what was making up the difference, but now that the northern side has been well secured, exploiters on all angles, and then geothermal coming up as well. LLT's guarding all of this, and I think I have to give credit where credit is due. All of this made possible by the transport. The early transport play. Really didn't see that coming because the transport play is so expensive early on, but the fact that we managed to pull it off here and use it to actually gain some sort of an advantage. Not just trying to go for a cheeky play, not just trying to go for some sort of in-base random, sneaky play to try and degun a lab or something, but actually using it to get presence out on the field is really, really cool to see. It's a brilliant, long-thinking strategic maneuver. Difficult to judge whether that sort of thing will be successful in any individual game, but from a grand strategy perspective, it definitely seemed to have worked out at least this time. Resbot sent around now to eat up these trees. One of the ways that I like to command these is to essentially spread them across the map with the right click and drag, and then start a reclaim command. That way they kind of reclaim from different areas. They don't all bundle up on the same thing and kind of waste a lot of time walking back and forth between resources. I find it sort of stabilizes their income rather than you get this big spike of energy production. You see the blue economy is spiking from 700 to 900 randomly. Bombers coming out here, but plenty of anti-air. I mean, yeah. More than enough anti-air right here to shoot down those bombers before they even get anywhere close to the base. T2 transition for Lord Vader. Plans to make up the difference that he's lost in the economy on the southern side by going ahead and going for a T2 economy. We've got a downed mechs over here as well. I'd love to see that replaced. Even though it was just recently destroyed and it's just about to get upgraded to T2, I would still like to see it replaced here. You get the refund, the full refund in metal value from upgrading those metal extractors, so it's almost always worth rebuilding them because you're just going to end up getting the metal back. Either way, though, I'm glad to see these wind turbine farms coming up. This is really the difference here. Building a bunch of wind turbine farms and catching up in the energy game is going to be critical here. The blue commander pulling in about 800 energy per second, largely in part because of this geothermal over here, which is super, super nice. The red commander pulling in about 300, and it depends heavily on wind speed. My goodness. Plummeting to the ground right here, but obviously both commanders heavily utilizing that wind speed means once it goes up again, that advantage will remain. It will just continue to scale upwards. Riot tanks, Wolverines, Stouts, Brutes, pardon me. Very very chatterboxy. Both commanders really engaging in some chit chat here. One of the things, you know, a lot of people have complained about it in the past. A lot of people, for instance, in the StarCraft community, kind of frown upon that sort of thing, the chit chat between pros. I think there are even tournaments where it's in the rules that you're not allowed to talk. And frankly, I feel like it's bogus. I feel like it's bogus. I feel like if you're able to distract your opponent with a little bit of text, maybe it's a strategic game. No, that's exactly the reason that people hate it. Is you're not supposed to, you know, you're supposed to keep it all out on the field, right? No trash talk. But a little friendly banter here and there is certainly entertaining, especially in these dull moments where both players are going for essentially tech transitions. The blue commander just trying to pump out as many vehicles as possible, while the red commander is trying to get some of those T2 online. We already have a couple of Salamander, which is great, and we're building them up before showing them, which I think is a wise move. Salamander maybe not going to be the most efficient, though. I really think maybe just going for a whole big batch of Tiger tanks wouldn't be the worst idea. Getting too ahead of myself here. Salamander is going to be the decision, though, for Vader. They are very cheap, costing 350 metal apiece and 7,000 energy. They are very, very inexpensive, and it does mean that while they aren't the best unit on basically any measure, they're a great unit on almost every measure. They're an ace, a jack of all trades, but better than a jack. They're better than good. They're pretty good. Above average. They're 80 out of 100. Big run by here. Massive run by here. Spectators drawing all over my board. Hey, cut it out here. One of the things I wish would probably be turned off for replays is turning off the spectator drawings. But anyway, I think I can do that in the settings, but there's always stuff I have to reconfigure. And frankly, it's too much of a headache. Salamanders now finally engaging against this T1 army, and there is quite a lot of them. We're up to, at this point, 9 salamanders and growing, 10 now, out of the laboratory. Going to have a decent time dealing with these medium tanks, but medium tanks, man, they just have so much HP. It's that age-old conundrum of there's only so much you can do. Then again, medium tanks kind of getting in their own way. Heat ray is also much more effective up close, and you know what? The salamanders do it, managing to hold off this offensive. Yeah, I think these tanks would have been microed back if the blue player was really paying attention to them, but instead, busy microing on the southern side. This is a nice fight for tanks, engaging against a whole bunch of these T1 bots. Not really where you want to be in the middle of them all. The surround bonus is going to be nasty, but still, tanks versus bots, the tanks are going to take that win every single time. Looks like about even as far as metal-wise goes as well. Maybe a slight advantage to the red commander, but still, even so, showing just how much more efficient those vehicles are by the fact that they've essentially come out on top here. Resbot's cleaning up a bunch of the wreckage, gonna head down south here and try and reclaim all this as well. That's nearly 3,000 in growing metal worth of reclaim field. Oh, and we're gonna go for a res command. Interesting. Not the end of the world. Certainly a res command could work out quite nicely here. Do we have T2 up and running? We sure do. Okay, T2 vehicle lab comes up and running finally for our boreal squid. Already a bunch of T2 coming out on the match right here, or out on the map rather, from Lord Vader, who's gonna pivot back into T1 bots here. I think that's probably just for resbots. At this point in the game, resbots do take a certain different role. They're essentially the cleanup crew. Very, very important. Resurrecting is interesting. Oh, we are gonna switch. Okay, yeah, we're gonna reclaim all this. I really don't feel like there's a reason to resurrect all that once you have the T2 lab up and online. There's really no reason for it. A little more build power right here to spam out units wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Salamanders knocking on our boreal squid's front door, trying to break in. Yeah, they're looking for an opportunity. They do not outrange the LLTs here, but they, of course, are amphibious, so they can dive into the water to take cover from essentially anything that could be built over here. And, of course, they can pop up and deal a bunch of damage as well. So there they go. They're diving into the water and popping up, ambushing the side over here. I like it. I like it quite a lot, actually. Excellent strategic move, using that water for cover. But now the blue economy is going to start catching up. The difference was made right there by those T2 metal extractors that were coming up slowly but surely here. We've already got 3, 4, 5 metal extractors upgraded. The more of these come online, the bigger the difference is. You can see already the red team, despite having far fewer metal extractors on the field here, already gaining an advantage in the metal economy. Remember, that's 4x the metal income is tremendous. Exploiter stays up and running. The real superpower of the Exploiter is just its ability to stay on its feet. They can suffer an insane amount of damage before going down. They don't do a lot of damage. They're not really meant as a, you know, an assault unit per se, but they certainly can take a punch. Salamander's looking to snipe that geothermal. Not a bad idea. That geothermal providing a decent amount of energy. At this point, though, with the wind being as high as it is and as many wind turbines are built for the blue economy, it's not a devastating hit. It doesn't shut off every lab available, and we are overflowing a lot of energy here as well for the blue commander. But it's certainly uncomfortable, and losing that space up on the map definitely hurts as well. We can rebuild it. We do have constructors up here still. They'll be more than happy to get back to work rebuilding that geothermal and the metal extractors, the exploiters, all the rest of it. Resbot's cleaning up this field here as well, resurrecting what they can and then reclaiming everything else. Now it's a good old-fashioned salamander war, so we've made our rapid transition directly into T2. Very cool to see. Heavy tanks rolling out of the field here, a couple of tigers, and a Tsar has just rolled out of the lab. Interesting decision. Tsar is very slow but very sturdy, and if you can manage to support it, there's no reason it wouldn't be able to crush through any remaining T1 static defense areas. We're a little late to that point in the game, though, so we're going to have to see this going up against T2 units, and I don't really know how a Tsar trades out against, for instance, salamanders. I know against medium tanks, against riot tanks, against basically all that caliber of T1 unit, it trades phenomenally. Its impulse will slow down those tanks, allowing its second shot to be even more efficient. Salamanders, though, are crazy fast. They really are. They suffer virtually no movement penalty underwater as well, so if they dive into the water, they can essentially escape any punishment that Tsar intends to deal out. Regular metal extractors coming up here. I wouldn't mind seeing exploiters, but they are very expensive. So maybe later on upgrading these to exploiters wouldn't be the worst idea. Exploiters, the T2 armed metal extractor for the Cortex faction. There we go, that grunt never saw what hit it. Basically a 500 kilogram bomb landed on top of it, and that was the end of that. That was the end of that grunt. Never to be seen again. Salamanders, yeah, decimating that Tsar. Nicely done. That sniper alone was worth it. That is a $1,000 tank directly down the drain as those $350 cheapo Salamander tanks managed to blast it down with a surround. The surround bonus on heat rays is incredibly compounding. They get so many bonuses. Their damage fall off means that they do most damage at close range, and then of course the surround bonus means that they do almost plus 90%, so 190% damage if you're doing a full surround. Means that if you get a full surround out of those salamanders, which often you can, because again, you can produce so many of them because they're so cheap, it means you get to, it's almost 300% damage. Don't quote me on the exact numbers because it's probably not exactly that. It's probably lower than that. It's probably closer to 240, 250. But yeah, it's tremendous. It's all put in perspective, of course, too. That's relative to the damage it's doing at long range right here, for instance. Tiger tank's obviously going to do quite a bit better than the Salamanders. They are just more expensive, more HP, more damage, more fire rate. They're better across the board, but you certainly pay for that difference. However, if it's an even number of Salamanders, the heavy tanks have given it to the Tigers every time. Rapidly dismantling these Salamanders in every fashion that they know how, aka twin Gauss cannon projectile damage. Suddenly, the overinvestment in these Salamanders may be the downfall of Arboreal Squid. This is quite a costly investment to go into this many Salamanders. Ooh, nice surround over here. Nice attempted run by, that is. Vader in position to degun it. That's some excellent map awareness right there. I didn't even catch it. We have a duck, by the way. Oh, no. Oh, he survived. Oh, he survived. That was a very close call. That duck nearly got crushed by the Salamander's tread right there. Salamanders trying their very best to find openings over here. I'm impressed that they can go up that wall. That's a very steep angle for those Salamanders to climb up, but apparently it's traversable. Very slowly traversable. Vader in position, not paying attention though. Big old fight happening on the southern side as a bunch of heavy Tiger tanks are engaging with the Salamanders down here and trading out quite phenomenally. We have a grunt running through to the back line right here. Potentially the game-ending grunt if it can manage to do enough damage. Yeah, those construction turrets want to dismantle it, but as long as it stays out of reach, it should have a fine time blasting away a whole bunch of these wind turbines. Those are chain reactable as well. Very, very close together. They're not going to chain react on each other, but their explosions will damage each other is what I mean. Very nice. Yeah, despite it all, despite the trade on the southern side being nice for the heavy tanks, there still is more stuff for the blue commander, mostly because of this resurrection, which is super nice. T2 metal extractors have come up and online now at this point as well. We do have scorpion turrets to defend all this, which is cool, and we're going to be starting to expand southward here as well. Expanding in multiple directions, always difficult, but if you can manage to maintain it, of course, it's easier to maintain a defense with a bigger economy than it is to try and expand with a smaller economy. It's the catch-22 of all RTS games. You need a big army to defend your big economy, and you need a big economy to produce a big army. Chicken and the egg. Salamanders rolling forward at this point, ready to get aggressive, but yeah, they're gonna see those heavy tanks and realize this is not the right opportunity. Both commanders looking for a game winner here and not finding it quite yet. T2 is too sturdy for the Cortex faction. It really is. They have so much HP across the board on all of their vehicles, bots, everything. It's going to be basically impossible to push in there without some sort of specialized equipment. A couple of banishers mixed into the composition here wouldn't be the worst thing, just so that you can start doing some heavy damage to a couple of these tanks and maybe sniping some of the weaker ones. Quakers wouldn't be a bad idea either, although we're not really in a position to siege, and that's more of a... yeah, Quakers are a luxury that you can afford in 8v8s when really you only have to focus on your one line, but we need the mobility that the Salamanders offer in order to address attacks around the map right here. So let's switch to the blue perspective, see what we can see. Radar coverage on the southern side is kind of lacking. We actually could do more for radar on the south side here. North side is pretty well guarded though, especially considering we do have the geothermal underlock and the exploiters up there as well. Going to be going for a advanced metal extractor transition, or upgrade rather, on the northern side here for Arboreal. Let's go ahead and switch over to the red perspective. Lord Vader with shabby radar coverage. Northern side could probably do with the radar. Oh, we do have a radar tower up there. So do we have a advanced radar? Yeah, we do. Okay, so an advanced radar tower in base, providing a lot of vision over here, and then this radar tower over on the northern side. Double checking, just giving us a little bit of extra coverage over here. No radar jammers, so this entire army is visible, painting a very clear picture of where the blue player is posturing. Not the worst thing in the world that there's no anti-radar there. It's not like we're really using any units that depend on it, like for instance artillery pieces and things like that, where it's important to cloak your position. But certainly showcasing exactly where your army is going to be at all times. Not necessarily the best move. That advanced radar in base will give you a pretty clear picture, basically no matter where the army goes here, except for on the other side over here. So it's actually kind of good positioning. Yeah, holding out over on the mountains over here where it's blocked by the radar. Transitioning into an air lab here. Interesting. Going to be going for a bunch of scout planes. I wonder if we're going to try and close this out with a bomber. Or a bombing run, pardon me. A couple of bombers headed across the base right here. Could certainly pop the build power, the wind turbines, and maybe even the fusion reactor if we have enough of them. If the fusion reactor goes down, if the fusion reactors go down, it could certainly spell the end of the red economy here. Scout planes shot down by the anti-air trucks included here as well. Lovely stuff. Including those AA trucks is often misremembered or often forgotten. Remembering to include those does keep your forces safe from, for instance, some shuriken shenanigans. Bomber transport constructs. Interesting. We're going for T2. This is an interesting transition. Looking to close out this game with T2 bombers. Maybe even a dragon. Yeah, flak truck's not going to do much against a dragon. It's a hefty, expensive investment in order to go for a dragon. No, it's going to be bombers. Okay. I think that's the right choice. Bomber's very sturdy, and especially against those flak trucks, you need something that can do essentially a big instantaneous burst of damage. Wow, T3 gantry comes up and online. Didn't see that coming. I thought we might make a transition into bots, or maybe some spy bots or something like that. No, we're going straight to the heavy cannons. Okay. The red economy of Lord Vader is looking quite nice here. If we go to statistics, we can actually see the total metal produced is about 3,000 higher, 3,000 to 4,000 higher for the blue commander. Looking pretty good. I don't usually look at that tab. I should look at it. We'll look at it more. It does reveal some interesting differences between the economies. Producing heavy tanks and heavy bombers at the same time feels expensive, but we're already floating 5,000 metal. I guess the blue commander just trying to find any way to spend that metal possible. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you may as well go for a dragon. Sheesh. Or a fusion reactor. Then again, the wind turbines are doing just fine. At 28 wind speed, you're actually more efficient than a fusion reactor. Somebody can do the math, but I'm pretty sure it's around, I want to say 23, 24, something like that. You start to cross the threshold where fusion reactors are actually more metal per energy than just building more wind turbines, which is pretty interesting. Not to mention Cortex wind turbines are a little more expensive, so you have to factor that in slightly. Their fusion reactors, slightly less expensive. But across the board, 28 wind speed is going to be phenomenal. I'd like to see more constructors building wind turbines, actually, just sending random T1 constructors around to build wind turbines, just to continue scaling the economy sort of semi-passively. It's such a low metal drain that it doesn't really damage your economy all too much. But it can be a massive benefit. Anti-nuke coming up right here. Vader expecting a nuclear response. An interesting decision. Not the one that our Boreal Squid is going to be going for. Both commanders, both commanders kind of waiting for the other one to make a move. We have Shiva out on the field here. We've eaten up the T2 lab and we've gone heavily into T3 production here. Shiva, gonna be pretty good. If there's one thing that the Shiva are good at, it's being cost effective. They're very, very cheap as far as T3 units go, and costing only 1550 metal. Very, very cheap. But they do have their flaws, certainly, in vast quantity. Tanks to deflect that attack on the northern side is quite nice, and the Shiva, also amphibious, means they can get around this map pretty easily. Usually fighting through these choke points is quite difficult, and it's one of the reasons why Salamanders do have a slight advantage on this map over the heavy tanks. Shiva, not so concerned about it, though. They can close all hatches and flaps and submerge, submerge, submerge. Dive, dive, dive. Bombers going across the map. This is big. This is really big. That's a whopping 10 Hailstorm bombers, 1 Whirlwind, and a single Nighthawk. Well, the Nighthawk's not coming along. Scouting planes are available here as well, and tons of flak trucks. Ha! Interesting. Oh no, flak trucks are moving away. Oh no, flak trucks are moving away. Yikes. Bombers headed directly towards the back one right here. We might even be able to just snipe the commander. Oh, we might be able to just snipe the commander. Of course, going for the eco is the guaranteed damage, but if you can snipe that commander, that would be huge. Yeah, scout plane's revealing a whole lot of what's going on over here. Let's see the blue perspective as we move these bombers in. Yep, commander cloaks. As soon as the commander cloaks, we change target and just go ahead and go directly after the fusion reactor there. A little bit of miss micro right there. Those bombers kind of miscued. There we go. Final bomber does manage to put enough bombs on target in order to bring down that first fusion reactor. T3 gantry going to be targeted now as well. Nicely done. That's a huge hit to the economy. Meanwhile, sending the forces forward. Trying to jump on top of this army while the red commander is distracted in the main base here. Flak truck's going to be more than enough to shut down those bombers eventually here. But that is a really, really nice play. It's a double prong attack, one from the air and one from the land, and the blue commander manages to take a tremendous advantage. Heavy tanks colliding over here in a mess of a battle, leaving behind a tremendous lake of metal. Resbots are going to be eager to eat all that up. Shiva holding their own, backing off and just continuing to shell away at a bunch of these tanks. But for the time being, the positional advantage does go here to the blue commander. Very nicely done. Interesting siege going on over here as well. Twin guards fighting regular guards. Very strange. Well, one of them goes down. Yikes. I like the vision here, but it's just it's odd. It's odd that we chose to fight this in this way. I mean, I like the pop-up turret a lot better. I guess that makes more sense. Resbot's resurrecting here instead of reclaiming. I don't think that's the move. I think it's time for T3 on your own there. I think Squid probably could benefit from just going into T3 or going into just more bombers. Anything really to spend the metal. Maybe gunships would work too. There's really not enough anti-air defense to deal with gunships. We have the flak trucks, and those are great and all. But yeah, as soon as gunships go around the flak trucks, what are you going to do then? I will say, because we've resurrected a lot of this big pool of units, we can start to send them forward here, but they're getting caught on their own tracks. Yeah, tanks having a rough time navigating this big field of bodies. Shiva having a ball blasting away at these tucked together tanks. Yeah, with those tanks nice and neatly clumped together, those Shiva get maximum value. And giving Shiva maximum value is really not something you're looking for. Yeah, the T3 transition is tough. Really, really tough. Oh, that's a lot of Resbots going down here as well. They accidentally stepped a little too far forward. Resbots get caught in the crossfire. Oh, and that hurts so badly. Those Resbots were critical to making this operation successful. Losing those tanks over and over again just hurts so badly. Yeah. Sabo launcher trying to fire away over there on the side, by the way. That is a devastating loss of units there on the front line. Reclaiming now from this wreckage field, realizing that all is lost here. Going to try and go for some sort of desperate throw. We're going for fusion reactors right now in the back line. I wouldn't mind a nuclear missile, actually. I think that might be a good idea. With this much metal out on the field, I feel like a nuke wouldn't be misplaced. AGO up and running in the northern corner here, by the way. That's a lot of energy going back to the blue economy. Fusion reactors coming up as well as air forces. We have plenty of fighters up in the sky, scouts as well. Let's see another bombing run. I think that bombing run was wildly successful, and I think another one would probably be just as well received. Flak turrets up in the main base here to try and defend from an air attack, but with that mountain providing you enough cover to fly around the side, I think you probably could get into that base still, again, with fighters. Shiva doing so much work here, though. Yeah, blasting away at the static defenses. It's all just T1, and the Shiva are essentially suited to deal with up to T2 static defense, so they're going to be more than well equipped to blast down all these remaining LLTs. It looks like a lot of defense, but really it is just T1 LLTs. Heavy tanks much more concerning, but again, only so much. When they're sitting still like that, Shiva will take advantage. The Shiva heavy missile launcher, not to be underestimated. I've lost many a base to the Shiva heavy missile launcher. Its capabilities are far and wide. T3, up and running. Demon, up and running. Heading out to the front lines now. RB Squid in a little bit of a desperate situation here. Yeah, I think we need to have all hands on decks producing demons out to the field. We're going for Shiva here. Not a bad choice, not the wrong choice, but the demon is going to melt these down a lot quicker. Demons have an insane amount of firepower, no pun intended. They pack a wallop. They also don't have much HP, so if you get them surrounded, they do melt pretty quick. The demon needs to ambush these from the side. Demons no longer amphibious like they once were. Means that it's going to have to take the terrestrial paths here on this map. Well, you can see just how quickly it does blast down those Shiva. Very nicely done. Its twin flamethrower cannons, not to be underestimated. It's the rapid response you need. Very, very quick as well, the demon. Means that you do have a good chance of catching any sort of attack. We have a big scout head that has gone across and made their way into the backlines here as well. A bunch of finches lying in the mountains. Pretty funny. Shiva's duking it out over here, on the right-hand side. Yeah, this one's getting pretty close to the base, though. Trying to body block here. Shiva trying to body block for their brethren. Trying to save the day. Oh, missing the D-gun there, but hit the second one. Managed to get rid of it. Demon on the front line, continuing to thwart the Shiva from pushing forward too fast. But it is, again, paper thin. Only so much a single demon can do, and down it goes. And the Shiva number is, once again, in the favor of the red. Well, it was always in the favor of the red. But the Resbot's working in the backline here as well. Things are starting to look nicer and nicer. Reviving as many of these tanks in T3 as possible. Suddenly, we're knocking on the front door of the Blue Commander. What a turnaround right there from Vader, clawing themselves back into this game after losing 70% of the map. In fact, still forfeiting 70% of the map, but just getting more and more efficient units on the field. Slowly but surely taking better trades over time. And it's gotten them all the way to the enemy's main base. Not bad. Now the Shiva are pushing back from blue, and that defender's advantage is going to start to press here. Now that T3 is up and running and well, the massive advantage of having most of the map controlled, yeah, that metal income is going to start to take its toll. Wouldn't mind seeing a change to Karganeth here. Karganeth's slightly more expensive, but way more efficient, especially if you get them into a teamwork position, if you can get them flanking. Their ability to hit their targets is unparalleled, their target-seeking missiles. Makes them very, very popular against heavy targets, single heavy targets. Essentially the assault unit of the Cortex faction, in lieu of a Razorback. T1 spammed out of labs right here is nice. It does provide you with a little bit of cover. Provides you with some vision as well. I think I'd prefer Resbots though. Yeah, there we go. We do have Resbots coming out now. An insane use of the Resurrect command. One of the things that I noticed these players are doing a lot more than I see normally in regular games. Using the Resurrect to try and build a lot of momentum. Yeah, trying to pick up a lot of these tanks and throw them back to the enemy base. And I agree with what Nebuchadnezzar has said in the chat here. He's got tunnel vision right now for not clearing the expansions. Sending a couple of Shiva to go try and clear out a bunch of the metal extractors over here would be fabulous. A medium tank somehow made its way over to this side of the map. All right, not bad. These Shiva were great. Now is the time for the bomber. We've got whirlwinds and we've got plenty. Coming out of this lab in swarms and droves right now, trying to get as many of them together for a bombing run as possible. One of the things that the Blue Commander has not had to deal with a tremendous amount is any sort of air attack, so I'm curious to see how we'll do. These are T2 fighters, very, very competent fighters, so we're going to need quite a swarm in order to deal with that. We no longer have our T2 vehicle lab either, so we've transitioned away from that, meaning we no longer have the anti-air trucks. That would be another popular option, is of course just to send those anti-air trucks underneath the fighter somehow. Tiger tank over here spotted by the grunts. Almost feels like a biological response, right? Like a body protecting itself from damage. The grunts being redirected, the flow of grunts being redirected over here to try and clear out the intruder. Pretty funny. Scorpion turrets over here have done a fabulous job of protecting this area, though. Making it very expensive to push through over there. Fighters spotted by all the different static defense over here. These are all pop-up turrets. We're just building tons and tons of pop-up turrets everywhere. And the T2 fighters, oh, just shred these bombers to pieces. Beautifully done right there. Bomber's not connecting with anything and losing everything. Really, really nicely done. Resbot's now out in swarms and able to resurrect as much of this pile of corpses as they can. Shiva comes up online, the demon up and running as well. Things are suddenly looking better and better now for Arboreal Squid. Vader with a sudden advantage and has lost it now after pulling back the forces. We pulled back the forces and then stopped production. I'm not sure. I guess we were just doubling down on economy, trying to reinvest here. We have so many constructors. I think wind turbines would have won this. I think 100 wind turbines here and another 100 here all would have produced enough energy to convert into enough, well, enough material to build enough T3 units to have won this right here. Right now, Vader very low on units. This is a behemoth coming out of this lab right here. That is an odd decision. Demons, Shivas, even Cataphracts wouldn't be a bad idea, but a behemoth is so slow, there's no way we're gonna get 20,000 metal out on the field, right? Surely. Nope. Nope, and it looks like Vader realizes that Arboreal Squid gonna take the victory here today as the mounting forces start to push forward here of Arboreal Squid. What an awesome 1v1 match. Rare you get to see the 1v1 games go back and forth all the way up to T3. That was really, really cool to see. A bit of an anticlimactic finish, but definitely not one I can disagree with. Vader realizing the situation, assessing it correctly, and understanding that he's had the economic disadvantage for essentially this entire game means as soon as the trigger is pulled and these units march, it was GG. Thanks a ton for watching, and let me know what you thought about this game down below in the comment section. Let me know if you enjoy the 1v1 games as well. I know I certainly do enjoy tasting around the different aspects of Beyond All Reason, the 1v1s, the free-for-alls, the Raptors, all that good stuff, and so I'm always curious to see what you guys have to say as well. My goodness, look at those graphs. Yeah, Arboreal Squid running away with the economy and eventually overwhelming his opponent. Thanks a ton for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel grow, and it also helps Beyond All Reason just as a community in a whole grow, which I'm always very thrilled about. And aside from that, I will see you in the very next game, Beyond All Reason. Peace out and have a great day, folks.